Assalamu alaikum, Ali.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for joining us on the Progeny Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
What inspired you about Hussein ibn Ali?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hussein ibn Ali or Imam Hussein or Abu Abdullah. This is what's really interesting actually. He means so many different things to so many different people. You can talk to one person who's experienced Abu Abdullah and seen Hussein ibn Ali as a revolutionary figure, someone who stands for social justice and who changes them in that way. And then there's someone else who'll say, do you know what? I found Hussein at a difficult point in my life and he affected me this way. Imam Hussein is a 360 degrees personality and character. There are some individuals you can take some things from, but other things you have to be careful of. Many historical figures you have to look at with a very reflective and analytical eye because you can't take all of them. Hussein ibn Ali, you can look at any part of his legacy, anything, and you'll find something. You can talk about generosity of spirit, you can talk about compassion, you can talk about dignity, you can talk about bravery, you can talk about the ability to stand up to a tyrant and a despot and speak the truth with an articulated mind, with a clarity of thought that is unique. For me, I look at, and I think the rest of the team involved in Who Is Hussein see a world, and since 2012 when the organisation started, that is really concerning. We're in London right now. A government, as we're talking, is just coming to an end, on the verge of coming to an end, or at least a premiership is coming to an end, during which time food bank usage is up, inflation is up, poverty is up, inequality is up, but billionaires' wealth is also up. COVID has taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. More and more people don't know how they're going to pay for their groceries at the end of the week, and there's an energy crisis and a cost of living crisis. That disparity between extreme wealth and extreme poverty is growing as our society and as our civilization goes through the years. There's something not quite right. Hussein ibn Ali provides a moral compass, a true north, a clear direction of travel, and shows you how you can live your life for the better that affects people around you today and tomorrow, to the point where 1400 years later we're still talking about, thinking about, discussing, analysing, crying over, wanting, yearning Hussein ibn Ali and people of his ilk to be around us, to be with us, to show us where to go. That's what Hussein ibn Ali is to me, and that's the beauty of him.
SubhanAllah. I want to take you back to 2012 because that's when Who Is Hussein started. And I want to focus this maybe podcast on Who Is Hussein and their work. Why did you choose, or how did this idea come about, first of all? And why did you choose to join this project? And the naming, Who Is Hussein, it's such a unique name that has now taken over the world, because you have offices and you have volunteers all around the world now. Because if you the easiest thing you do is go on Instagram or social media and put Who's Hussein, and then Who's Hussein UK, Who's Hussein Africa, all these countries, US, even Lebanon, the Middle East, Africa, New Zealand. There's a group representing Who Is Hussein. So 2012, how did it all begin?
2012, less grey hairs, less bags under my eyes.
There's not a lot of grey hairs.
Happy time. A time when I think many people were looking at what was going on around them. A reflective point in people's lives. At least for me, I was in my early 20s. I know many of the other brothers and others involved were at that juncture in life where we're becoming adults in a true sense and finding our feet. And this rat race, this term we used a lot, the rat race of life doesn't quite make sense. You work hard to go to school to get a good job. You work hard on your job, you pay your taxes. You work hard to get a good pension, you stop working, and then at some point you die. And you can either lead a life of hedonism at one end of the spectrum or immense sobriety at the other end. But something doesn't quite mesh. And going back to my earlier point, society isn't in sync with itself. As brothers, we look to Hussein ibn Ali.
How many brothers?
About a dozen, let's say.
Okay.
And in parenthesis, I just want to make a small point, which is I seem a little bit uncomfortable, or when we talk about this, we're a little bit uncomfortable because the attention isn't on anyone involved.
Of course.
We were privileged enough to be, as a quirk of whatever, a result of fate, to be invited to join this organization, to join this mission. And any part that anyone plays in it is always a humble, small role. The name Who Is Hussein is just that. The subject is Hussein. The subject isn't me or X
No
or
doubt.
Y. It's all about... So, and inshallah, God willing, one day when I'm long gone, 6 feet under, this organization will continue way beyond that. And people won't talk about me or A or B or C or D. The only personality, the only one they'll ever think about, I hope, I pray, is Hussein, because he's much bigger, much more important than anyone involved. So, just in parenthesis, the world needs examples like Hussein. When you're growing up, you look to your parents to say to you, this is right, this is wrong. But you don't lose that when you get to X age, 16, 18, 21, 25. You still need an example. And he is a timeless example. He is the perfection in terms of every moral characteristic that one needs in life. Whether you're in the West or the East, whether you're in 2022 or whether you're in 2500 or whether you're in 600, whatever it may be. Hussein teaches us something that we can take as valuable, as gold, as honey, and people gravitate around him for that very reason. Every society needs its Hussein, and he as a personality evolves through the times, and that's a sign of a truly inspirational legacy, I think.
Would you say you've achieved the ambitions or the goals or the aims you set out back in 2012? And what were these aims?
Who is Hussein? Does everyone in the world know who Imam Hussein is or Hussein ibn Ali is? Not yet. We're getting there. But, I mean, so in terms of our objectives, we want to inspire a world. And awareness and knowing who Hussein is one thing. But it's no good me talking to you about, if I'm selling you a product or if I'm presenting you a product, there's no point you knowing about this brilliant health product I have. I want you to engage in it, buy it, try it, use it, benefit from it. It's about action as well. So Who Is Hussein's ambition is to inspire communities to effect positive change. To take those examples of Hussein, which is compassion, dignity, justice, and broadly speaking, morality, and address whatever societal issue or need they have, inspiring communities to effect positive, innovative change. Whether that's in Auckland, whether that's in Latin America and Buenos Aires, whether that's in Mbeya in Tanzania, whether that's in Stockholm, and wherever it may be, east to west, north to south, today, 2012, and 50 years' time, to take the legacy of Hussein and say, how can I use this to improve the plight, the situation, the issues of the people around me, my neighbour, my city, my community. Every single community we've interacted with has something they need. We're in London, our team work on the homelessness issue. There are people in our streets in this rich, very, very affluent city who do not have shelter daily. But in other places there'll be other things. And we'll talk a bit later about blood and healthcare, I'm sure. But there's no point just knowing about Hussein. You have to do something with
Action.
that. You have to. I think it's absolutely critical that when you have privilege, I have immense privilege, I'm still trying to avail myself of that privilege God has given me. He's given me health, he's given me family, he's given me education, he's given me ... I could live a life and retire happy and be in a comfortable home and have a comfortable job and have savings in the bank. What about the guy who grows up in the East and doesn't have $2 to rub together? I have a responsibility to him. I have to do something about that. Sri Lanka right now, Yemen tomorrow, yesterday, wherever it may be, I have to do something about that. And change starts around you. Change always starts around you. In concentric circles, we grow, we develop, we change. So that's a long answer. The short answer is no, we haven't achieved our objectives because the whole world isn't inspired by Hussein ibn Ali. The whole world doesn't live towards compassion and dignity and towards human rights and towards civil liberties and towards a sense of Samaritanism. But day by day, hour by hour, our team's doing extraordinary, sterling, moving, motivational, empowering work that is innovative, that is life-changing. And really, I sincerely hope, pray that we have the ability to continue doing that. And I think this is why I'm so bought into it, because it's You don't see many occasions, I don't think, where people do stuff not talking about themselves, not talking about anything to do with ego, but saying, I want to make the lives of people around me better for a good and goodly purpose, I think.
As I mentioned earlier, you've got teams everywhere around the world. Do you know how many countries have you've reached?
We're in about 65 odd locations, and over 24 countries. The number fluctuates because sometimes teams become inactive and sometimes we recruit new teams. But across every continent, we have presence, and it's we're constantly getting interest, and constantly growing. And the work of the teams as well is moving. If you go back to 10 years ago, the organisation started. Really, and it just sort of took off by itself. There was no real ambition, effort, or real endeavour to say, let's go and recruit teams. It's happened organically. People have said, I'm moved by Hussein ibn Ali. I'm going to do something in his honour, in his name. And that's always been the case. That's probably someone else calling up now saying, how can I get involved? I hope so. Send them to whoishussein.org.
Send them to with Who Is Hussein. A project like this, it requires, I'm guessing, or maybe I want to get to the challenges later on, but one of the biggest challenges is the finance issue. How do you finance Who Is Hussein? And a project like this, has there ever been a stage maybe throughout the 10 years, because now it's been 10 years, where you've thought, we can't continue this anymore because of
It's a really good question. I've been lucky enough to be involved in a few organisations, and with this one, there is genuinely a feeling, really genuine, I really mean this, a bona fide feeling that whenever we are in need of something, and the reason for it is a good reason, it's not a frivolous expenditure, it's always come. We have the most extraordinary group of donors and supporters all over the world who have always backed Who Is Hussein from the first day, from this crazy conception of this idea to today when we're doing a massive project in the next few weeks. One of the reasons I think people, I hope, support us is I think because we try to have fidelity and integrity when it comes to our expenditure. We live within our means. We try to be lean. We try to spend what we need to spend. We don't like to sit on huge stockpiles of cash. Our donors, I think, are bought into us on our journey. That's to say, we want to raise awareness about Hussein ibn Ali, and through doing that, improve the situations of the communities where we serve. We've got donors who are high net worth individuals. We've got donors who will donate a few pounds or dollars a month or even a year. And we're a big tent. Anyone who comes forward and says, we want to be part of this mission, we'll welcome them with open arms. And in fact, it's not even for us to welcome them. It's not for us to welcome them. The mission of Hussein ibn Ali has been going on for 1400 years, and it will long extend past me or anyone else involved in Who Is Hussein at the moment. The moment anyone says, I want to be part of this organisation or part of this mission or do something for Hussein ibn Ali, they're there. They're done. And when we get moving messages, someone will say something like, I can only donate a few rupees. It's all the money I had left to donate. Wow. Please forgive me for not donating more. I have donors who will give, or we have donors who will kindly offer us. They'll just say, what do you need to make what you need to have happen? And they trust us. And that trust is the greatest blessing we have. And it allows me to sleep easier at night knowing we have such extraordinary supporters. And we try our daily best, our level best, to do justice to those people. And we've got donors from all locations around the world. It's very, very important. Sorry, this is a long answer, longer than I'm sure than you wanted. It's very important that there are some organisations which are very donor dependent, but which become prejudiced by what their donors' expectations are. Mm-hmm. For example, you may have an organisation which has one donor who gives a sum of money, and then the donor feels, and it's their absolute right to give feedback, but the direction of travel has to always be true to the vision of the organisation. It must never be prejudiced by A, B, C, John or Frank, or it has to be true to the vision of the organisation. The organisation can't be sidetracked, either by human resource, financial resource, opportunity for press, whatever the other kind of honey traps are. And I think we're really lucky to have extraordinary supporters. And daily we're trying to become more and more We're trying to welcome donors. We're always open if people want to support us. Please go online and support us. And this organisation is not run by me, not run by my team for me or for us. It's for the benefit of the public and for society at whole.
There's never, by the way, a long answer on Progeny, so feel comfortable to take as long as you want.
You may need to spend a lot more time editing.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Trust me. There's never a long answer on Progeny, so feel comfortable to get across the answer you need.
In my family, someone who uses one word when they could have used 10 is cutting everyone else short. So
no, on this show, it's fine. Other than finance,
yes.
What do you think in the last 10 years the main challenges have been, and how do you overcome, or have you overcome these challenges that you face, other than finance?
This is not, I think, a Who's Hussein specific answer in some ways, but maybe it is. Having vision in the third sector, real, true vision, which is generational, is tough. You've got to live beyond the moment and imagine what can happen tomorrow. Most leaders, whether that's in politics or business or the third sector, do not have true vision. I can imagine a tomorrow that today we're not at, and saying we're going to get there, even when you can't even paint a picture of it beyond what's in your mind's eye. And I think we've always, each of the brothers and sisters involved in Hussein, we've always had this desire to remind ourselves, let's have a can-do attitude. Let's try and imagine something, even if it's absurd and beyond the realm of possibility in every other ordinary sense. So I think that's one. Having that can-do, yes, we can. Let's try and break norms for norm's sake. You know, just because something's axiomatic and just because that's the way things are done, we don't need to always do things that way. One. Two, human resource. Every organisation struggles with human resource. Only in the last few years have we brought on paid members of staff, and we have an extraordinary, outstanding team. But for a long time, Hussein was entirely voluntary on, which we're very proud of. And I think that kept the purity of the intention of the work in place, because people were not there for any other reason than to serve. And we've lived through really extraordinary times, haven't we? It's been COVID, it's been a pandemic, and not just for us in what we would call the central team in London, but for every location globally. But it's a testament to our team's work that they're able to galvanise and to redirect their efforts. Take our Lebanon team, for example, or many of our teams. When COVID hit and lots of people lost their jobs and the elderly were alone, our teams were out there on the street pounding on doors, giving care packages to people, or checking in and just saying, how are you doing? You're elderly, you're on your own. Can I be of support to you? How can I lend assistance to you? I'll go and do your grocery shopping for you. I think that's a true testament. And they would have had their plans in place, saying, we're going to do this year, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. All of that got shelved, and we tried to pivot. And I think in many cases, even of course there were lockdowns and quarantines, they did a really outstanding job. That wasn't me. That was all the guys, boots on the ground, doing inspiring stuff. And I know there are lives who positively benefited from that. But that's been a huge challenge.
The homelessness project in London has been running for quite a few years. And Who Is Hussein recently has been known for doing this project. And I feel it hasn't received enough coverage, especially mainstream. Why do you think that is?
We've had some coverage. So we had, for example, the CNN reporter.
I saw the
but
CNN
you're
report.
right. I mean, but do you know what? That's okay. Firstly, because we're clear on our objectives, the only thing that matters is the lives of the people in London. We call them guests.
On the ground are changing, yeah.
If someone who had an empty stomach before we saw them is satiated after, and I don't just mean, of course I mean stomach, I mean food, but I also mean having an emotional connection, a bond, reciprocating friendship, amicable relationship, someone to talk to, that's good enough for us in many ways. But it's also beyond that. We're also developing, so in our London team they do extraordinary work, and I must pay testament to the guys at Charing Cross every single Saturday at Charing Cross.
Yeah.
Giving people haircuts, they have dignity. Offering people CV workshops, giving them legal advice so we can work out how they can get back on their feet, help them to transform their lives so that they aren't reliant on the state or on the third sector or on volunteers to do it. So it's a how can we help you? And I think there's a real ambition in the London team to treat people with great dignity and respect. there are, and I don't mean to point fingers, we're not out there at Who Is Hussein. I really genuinely mean this, to get publicity, to be talked about, to be the talked about organisation, to have virality for virality's sake, to be on the front page of X broadsheet newspaper, or be featured by Y publication, or be trending on Twitter. There's always that desire to be really, really known. At Who Is Hussein, if we can go to bed at night thinking, today I may have helped one person, that's a huge win. That's more than you could ever hope to do, and that's brilliant and beautiful. And whether it's in London or almost every single day of the year, there'll be Who Is Hussein events going on globally, and they'll be doing it with that purity of intention, and that's, I hope, fairly good, well, fairly worthwhile, fairly virtuous.
Before getting into your project coming up, which is a world record, that's what you're aiming for,
God willing,
inshallah. If you were to pick your I don't want to use the word best, but maybe the projects that you feel really made a change,
sure,
globally, which 5 would you, or which 3 maybe would you? I mean, homelessness has to be up there, I guess, because you've seen the work maybe on the ground. But are there any projects that maybe we haven't heard about? Because you just mentioned Lebanon, and I haven't personally. I didn't know about this. You know, the work being done during pandemic, and like you said, it's not so much about the publicity; it's about the work being done. But I, who work in the media, sometimes I feel it's important to publicize this work, not so we can say Mr. X did this work and get the recognition, which I think is also important.
Of course.
Because again, even though I'm going a bit off topic, sometimes I feel certain people are not being appreciated. And sometimes you feel you need to be appreciated and loved to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So not only on the first level, I think the work that gets done in our communities needs to be recognized. So it needs to be publicized for it to be recognized, and it needs to be appreciated. Mm-hmm. But on the second level, also to encourage others who may be thinking, what can I do to give back, to do the work? Hence why I think, it's important to discuss these things, even though, as you so eloquently put it, it's not about me or this person or that person. It's about us creating a change, us introducing the world to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. But if you were to pick maybe projects that maybe we haven't heard about, that you thought really created a change.
So I'm going to apologise to any of our teams that are watching this, because inevitably you picking like a few. I'm just going to talk about the ones that are in my heart.
And people should know that, by the way, sorry to interrupt, we never discussed what we're going to speak about before this episode, which is generally what I do. So I can put the guest on the spot. So I'm sorry I've put you on the spot. And I'm sure all the work that gets done wherever it may be, like you said, if it's just one person, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ says to Imam Ali, if one person, Ali, changes because of you, then it's better what the sun shines on. So even if it's one person, but I'm saying, the projects that maybe we haven't heard about.
Well, this is the point. So, and of course, all your viewers and listeners are going to go onto whoishussein.org's Facebook page,
inshallah,
to go and look at all the events in detail and scroll down all the way to 2012, but to see in there, and they can make their own assessments. And please write in to tell us which ones you liked. I'll tell you about the ones that touch my heart. I have a really soft, we all have a soft place in our heart for orphans. I've got a bottle here that says Who Is Hussein Pakistan. It was kindly gifted to me by the Who Is Hussein Pakistan team. A few years ago, they put on a mall, and they call it the Mall of Happiness. And they said to orphans in Pakistan, come to our mall, take what you like.
Wow.
So that an orphan has a right to have, sorry, I'm feeling a bit emotional talking about this. You and I, our parents would have held our hands and walked us down, whether in London it may have been a toy shop, or whether it's Harrods or Toys R Us or whatever it is. And you'd have been able to buy whatever you wanted.
Definitely.
An orphan has a right to that as well.
100%.
So for an orphan to go through a mall and say, have that feeling, that will live with you for a long time. Keeping on the theme of children, in Chicago, our Chicago team will give backpacks to children every school year, so that they have the dignity of going into class with a backpack full of stationery and school supplies. There's nothing worse than a school kid sitting at the back of the classroom who hasn't got a pencil or a sharpener or a rubber, wherever it may be. And that's been featured by, I think, local Fox News station, for example. And they do it year in, year out, and they become known for it, and they keep doing more and more kids. And I think that's extraordinary for them to do it in the US. Our Lebanon team are amazing. So to focus on one thing they do is really tough. But every year they break, for many years they've broken, along with another organisation with whom they partner, the blood donation record in Lebanon to collect blood donations which go towards saving lives. Each blood unit can go towards saving 3 lives. They did care packages. Their response to the Lebanon blast was extraordinary. And they have a huge, extremely committed team of people of all stripes and denominations and ages and backgrounds, and they've done amazing work. I'll give you an example that we've been talking about a lot recently, Mustafa, which is our work in Mbeya. Mbeya is a town many people will know about in semi-rural Tanzania. And this team do amazing things. Take just a really good synopsis that epitomizes Who Is Hussein's work. Running youth camps to help give young people role models to look up to. Doing, I think it was cataract operations. Saving someone's eyesight is a big deal. Yeah. And giving care packages. That's 3 layers of societal support. Our ambition, Mustafa, is that one day, wherever you are in the world, you need something. Your roof's caved in. You're an elderly person, you're stuck. You've got a life-changing disease. There's a societal problem around homelessness. All you need to do is find your local Who Is Hussein representative. Those people, they're inspired by a man called Hussain, who was a good man, who did something right many years ago. Whatever he did, he's changed these people for the better. I know if I need something, I find Who Is Hussein. Those Samaritans will help me. Some of these examples, I can keep going. I can talk about the work of our Birmingham. We talk about London. In Birmingham, they do, several times a week a soup kitchen to support people. These people are pillars of their society. These people are, whether you could talk about Auckland, I could talk to you. There's so many examples. If you need help, go to Who Is Hussein. That's the example these teams are setting. But they each do different things because each society needs something different. You can't replicate what's being done I talked about Chicago. You can't replicate what's being done in Illinois, in Rawalpindi in Pakistan. You can't, by the same token, replicate what's being done in Delhi or Bombay, in Buenos Aires, or what's being done in Bogota, in Oslo. So you have to have teams that are plugged into their societies, but the one thing they all share, they share their same strand of compassion and big-heartedness and a willingness, a drive, an energy, a vivacity to say, I'm going to do what I need to do to help people. But each and every day they do new and amazing things. And the scale of these teams varies as well. The team in Buenos Aires, which has done, for example, refugee welcome events, is at a very different level from an established team like New York. But they each have a part to play, and they each do it with great gusto. But yeah, those are just some examples that come immediately to mind.
It's amazing because, as you mentioned, it's about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It's about, and these people have all been inspired by him to do the work that they do. And what comes, as you were telling us about all these different projects, what came to my mind was Sayyidah Zainab saying, I saw nothing but beauty. And I sometimes think the work that gets done is that beauty that she's speaking about. It's that person standing in Charing Cross in the middle of the night in January when it's, close to -5 or whatever the temperature is.
Yeah.
Standing there, volunteering his time to give food to someone who's not from the same religion or faith, and he doesn't care what religion he's from. And that's what I sometimes always mention, which is I think I've mentioned this on a previous podcast as well, interestingly, with Neil, now that I remember. And I said, when those 3 came to knock on the door of Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima alayhim salam, ask, the orphan, the captive and the needy, Imam Ali didn't come out and say, are you my follower?
No,
are you a Muslim?
No,
or are you a Christian? It doesn't matter. Are you an Arab or non-Arab? I'm going to provide you the help. And again, so this work publicized so people can do more. And I think it's Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and the Ahl al-Bayt that inspire us to do more. So I hope the teams that you've mentioned, they'll be in my prayer. And I wish them all the success in everything they do to spread the message of Imam Hussein.
As Hussein ibn Ali's, Imam Hussein's words himself, he says, whether or not you believe in the day of judgment, the day of reckoning, be free in this world. The most generous person, he doesn't say the most generous Muslim or
Arab
or exactly, or believer in God, or the most generous male, or the most generous 40-year-old, or the most generous person is he who. Hussein promotes this universality that is more pertinent, more germane, more relevant today than ever. And so if you're sitting in Charing Cross and it's -5 and your hands are numb, but you're giving something to someone and you know you're not going to be on social media, you're not going to get any money for it, the only person who knows about it is the recipient. That's something to be really proud about, and I hope we can continue doing that, and I hope we can continue doing that with that purity.
Amazing. I pray that you do, and I hope that more people can get involved with whatever they can, whether it's donating financially or actually helping volunteering, because I'm sure you still accept volunteers if people want to do something, and like you said, it's not yourself, it's Imam Hussein's.
We always look, the more
help,
I mean, God, if any organization relies on, I mean, I can only speak for myself, brain cells are people like mine, we need as much help as we can get. Sure. And it takes all forms. Whatever help you can give, everyone has something to offer. There is no one who can say, I have nothing to offer. No, you have something to offer. Give us your time, give us your expertise, lend us your whatever it may be.
You mentioned me and my brothers, and then you mentioned male. I'm sure there are also the female parts of the team.
Our sisters. It's just when this organization started, it was a group of male friends who started
because they're friends hanging out.
It was friends hanging out, and I should say we are, as a collective, very uncomfortable about any conversation in and around that group. We're not going to pose for a picture ever, so I want to take the focus away from that. One of the most beautiful things that happened was the organization developed, grew and blossomed primarily, or oftentimes, because of the support of when it blossomed and when it grew, because of the sisters who came on board, because of the diversity of thought, and I can say this without any concern in the world, because of the diversity of not just gender but also ethnic diversity, people's I want to say political, lowercase p, political, or ideological, lowercase I, ideological, as in different ways of approaching the world, having different worldviews.
Definitely.
And definitely people who are not just from the UK. That's really helped the organisation become more well-rounded, become more, I mean, we're serving the world as a whole. You have to have a representative of that demographic to do so. I mean, when I talk about brothers,
I just wanted to put that out. So
no, that's very important.
Did you face any negativity with Who Is Hussein, and how did you deal with that within our community and also outside of the community?
In any walk of life, one has to have a balance to be able to listen to wise people who have pertinent comments on the one hand, and also have the strength to tune out people who are naysayers, negative, cynical for the sake of it. So you can't be too open-eared that you listen to everyone who has something cynical to say, and you can't be too closed ears as to not take on board pertinent good counsel. So if any venture, you have that. Some people didn't like, for listeners, there may be listeners or watchers who don't know lots about Hussein ibn Ali. I talk about Hussein, I'm saying I'm a Muslim. I think of Hussein ibn Ali, Imam Hussein, he has a religious connotation and pertinence to me. There are people who are involved, volunteers, supporters of, donors to this organisation who are not Muslim, who are not religiously inclined towards Hussein ibn Ali, and can take that. So I'm just prefacing the next comment I say by saying that. People who said, why are you not adorning Hussein with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as you and I would call him day to day when we come together to commemorate and celebrate his life? Okay, we listen to that. There are people who weren't very happy about certain things we were doing or the way we were doing it. We tried to listen, we try to always, and we've grown. Some of the decisions we made 10 years ago, we'd go back, would we adopt that same decision? Maybe not, but we grew, and maybe we learned in 2013 or 15, or maybe we've only just now, or maybe in 3 years' time we'll realize the sagacity that we thought was there wasn't there. That's okay. But I can say we've always, I think, tried to do it with the best intentions. And I think that really helps you, because through a process of whatever you want to call that process, people have different words for it, whether it's divine or just karma, whatever it is. For me, I have a perspective on it. Things tend to work out when you have absolute clarity in your intention. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it with good people who have a shared vision and shared values. And I believe what will happen for its right reason and purpose. When you have those three things, I think that more often than not, the dominoes fall okay.
Alhamdulillah.
I think so. I hope so. And I think that's one of the legacies of Hussein. At a personal level, I have learned so much about trusting that process through this. And I've been blessed to be around some outstanding people who I call friends and brothers and sisters to this day, who've taught me that. And that's at a personal level, that's been the really beautiful thing about this organization.
Alhamdulillah. Let's talk about breaking the record in Muharram, which is something that I've seen on social media recently, and I've seen it being mentioned. Maybe some people have heard of it, maybe they haven't. First, let's introduce this breaking. What are you actually trying to break the record for?
One of the best ways to serve humanity is to give blood. A pint of your or my blood might save the life of 3 people outside for various reasons. Most people don't donate blood, and all healthcare services around the world desperately need our blood, particularly when you're from an ethnic minority. So we are aspiring to, on the 27th of August, get 50,000 people around the world to come together and donate blood on that day. Together, we hope to save the lives of 150,000 people. Incidentally, as you say, if we do manage to do that, let's see. If we do manage to do that, it will be a world record.
Inshallah.
We're motivated by the opportunity to save huge numbers of lives. We talked about affecting one life to change maybe 50, 100, 150,000 lives in one go. It'd be amazing. We believe that many of the people who donate blood will be doing so for the first time. So we may hope to help initiate a process which leads to many, many consequential acts of service as well, which could save many lives as a result for years to come. That's the ambition. And this project, this Global Blood Heroes project, we are partnering with many really outstanding organizations, whether it's the NHS or Red Cross, Imam Hussein Blood Donation Campaign, Vitalant, Canadian Blood Services, all over the world. We've partnered with healthcare organizations who are buying into this vision. Let's save 150,000 lives together on the 27th of August.
So it has to take place on the 27th, and if someone wants to sign up, they'd go to
blood.whoishussein.org. And on there it has eligibility criteria, and you can find your local blood donation site, and you just put on there which continent you're from, and you answer some questions. You sign up on there, register your interest, and there are plenty of places around the world to go to donate blood on the 27th of August.
So to break the record, you need 50,000.
So that'll be a bit above the record. I think the record stands around 35,000.
Okay.
Our target,
Your target,
we're putting our hat. Our marker is on 50. That's our aspiration.
50,000 different people donating
50,000 individual unique donations of blood. Each person gives around a pint. And then each one of those, we're told by the healthcare agencies, can save up to 3 lives.
And that's obviously going to take place in the month of Muharram, the month of the martyr Imam Hussain.
When we're thinking about... and one of the reasons you're absolutely right is it's a time when, as people who know Hussein ibn Ali, Imam Hussein, we're coming together to commemorate the martyrdom, the death of Hussein. And it will be an opportunity to say, I'm inspired by Hussein. He led a life of value that's affecting me today. As a small recognition of that, the least I can do is try and do something to save other people's lives. It'll take a few minutes of my time. I'll be given some biscuits at the end of it. I'll put a snap on Instagram about it. I'll talk about it to my kids, and I'll be really proud of it. And it may save 3 lives. So we hope that lots, and we've been so blown away by the support we've got. We're really proud to partner with the likes of the NHS. I've seen I must tip my hat to the volunteers who've initiated, supported, gathered momentum, driven this project. This is not a testament to anyone apart from them. And God Almighty has been ever so benevolent, and our donors who've even made this absurd possibility even something that we could have on our radar. So whatever happens on the 27th of August, it's been an incredible 9-12 months of preparation, of organization, and can't wait for the big day.
Inshallah. When you started, again, because these projects, homelessness, the project of the mall that you mentioned took place in Pakistan, the Chicago work, they're very unique ways of serving humanity through Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam.
Yes.
And then from the communities that we come from, we're used to a different way of serving Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, yes. Whether it's attending lectures, attending programs in our local centers. When you set up Who Is Hussein, would you say one of the reasons why you set up Who Is Hussein is to give that message more life? Again, I'm not taking away anything from our centers. Let's say that to be clear at the start. I'm not saying what we're doing is wrong. No. What we do is what has people like we see in our communities, like yourself and others who do the great work. It's the mosque or the community center or wherever you grew up in that inspired you to. But what I'm trying to, sometimes I feel, again, this is, I'm not sure if you share this feeling, that we confine someone like Imam al-Hussein to our own communities, and we put I want to be careful with what I say. So we limit Imam al-Hussein rather than him being someone that came for all of humanity. You hear a lot of Christians, for example, or non-Muslims in that in Lebanon especially, that have written books, for example, about Imam Ali, the voice of human justice. So sometimes you say, I feel when you look at the narrations or the sayings of the Imams, they always say to their followers, share our narrations, share our stories. They don't say go and convert people or so and so. No, share our stories, share our narrations through our akhlaq, and they led by example. When you set up Who Is Hussein, was that in the back of your mind? Do you think that's one, maybe not just you and the others? Did you discuss this?
Okay, so firstly, I want to proceed with immense caution and respect, because anything I say, I don't want to ever cast shade on the institutions and the existing activity. The movement of adoration for Hussein ibn Ali is much bigger than one organization. It's been going on for hundreds of years, and will, inshallah, God willing, continue for many, many more. And with a multi-layered personality like Hussein ibn Ali, who has a religious association, but also a humanitarian and universal one, there are different ways to celebrate and commemorate his life and learn from it. So that, I think it's important to note from the outset. The name Who Is Hussein tells you what it is, which is that we feel, collectively, there was a collective feeling that more people should know about Hussein ibn Ali, in the same way that people adorn the lives of Mandela and Gandhi and many others. And I don't want to make a comparison there for sure, but Hussein is a luminary and belongs with many other luminaries in that space. He has more right, or at least as much, but I think more right than many other people who some would consider role models, to be, as I said at the beginning, a moral compass, a true north. With Who Is Hussein, what we're always trying to do is make the celebration of Hussein ibn Ali's life fit for the 21st century, or do it in a way that is appropriate for the 21st century. There's conventional means of relief. You talked about the story of Hussein's father and mother feeding 3 people, giving up their own food to share with. That was the best thing that could have been done for those people at that time. You come to my door, you are hungry, I have some food, I will give you my food, even if it means I go hungry. Nothing better than that, nothing more sacred than that. If there is a problem in my town, city, neighborhood, precinct, and I can find a way of solving it, let me do it. Option 1, I walk down a street, I see a homeless person, I don't give them money. Option 2, I walk down the street, I see a homeless person, I give them whatever change I have in my pocket and move on. Option 3, I walk down the street, I see a homeless person, I stop, I chat with them for a bit, I give them some money and I move on. But the last option is I see a homeless person walking down the street, I do whatever I can for them, and I reflect, how can I have dignity and how can they have dignity if we both live in a place where he has to live like this and I have to live like, and I live like this. And I get together with other people and say, let's make sure that person and no one like that person ever sits on a street like that, begging, degrading themselves. That's the best thing to do for that person and for all of society. That's my responsibility, and that's all of our responsibilities. I believe that sometimes society has a responsibility, has a duty that it's obligatory to fulfill daily. For example, if my neighbour's house is burning, it's on fire, and I sit in my living room and watch Netflix, or I eat pasta, or I play cards, or I sing on a karaoke machine, I have failed. You and I wouldn't do that. Let's be honest. We would go out there, we'd call, we'd go out with water, we'd try and help. If there's someone upstairs, we'd do it. Why should it be any different if someone's hungry on the street? Why should it be any different if someone can't go to school or go to work with a full meal in their belly? That's why in the UK we were so proud of Marcus Rashford, because he delivered for all of us when all of us were omitting to do anything for school kids whose meals were cut by the government, when many people couldn't afford meals for their kids. That's Who Is Hussein.
And that's a gunner saying that about Marcus Rashford.
Red and white, isn't it?
Subhanallah. Yeah, you mentioned, before I forget, you mentioned dignity a few times.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
And when you study the life of Hussein alayhi salam, as well as his family, and specifically Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the concept of dignity strikes you with everything that he did, especially on that day of Ashura. Yeah. And I noticed you've mentioned a few. Why dignity?
It's the word. I mean, there are some words which we keep going back to. You're talking about, I said someone who's 360 degrees. Hussein ibn Ali is so much. But there are some things you just look, you see someone and they're clothed in certain attributes. Hussein ibn Ali is clothed in dignity. On the day of Ashura, on the day when he was going to have his life taken and those of his family and many of his companions was taken, he exhibited so many examples of dignity. The days before that, he is the one in possession of water sources. The opposition do not have access to it. An act of dignity is to give that opposition water, knowing in all likelihood, as they did, that they would then deny him that water. Dignity. An act of dignity is to say to a commander in the opposition forces who have subjected him and his family, including his young children, to torment, someone who says, I want forgiveness and I want to join your side. Dignity to him and to that person is to say, come with open arms, come with pride and absolute forgiveness. That's dignity. Dignity is to be the person who in the middle of the night, anonymously, without seeking accolade, goes out and serves the needy. That's dignity for him and for those around him. If anyone who comes across Who Is Hussein can see from the organization that respect, that honor, that integrity, that dignity, that will be a worthy service, I hope, I pray, I submit to the life of Hussein ibn Ali. The man is everything. In so many ways he was perfect, but in this attribute, which is such a difficult thing to understand, it's not like if I say Mustafa is generous, as you are, Mustafa will give money.
No.
Mustafa is generous. Mustafa will see someone who's needy, he'll give a tenner. If I see someone who's truthful, they will tell the truth. They'll be candid and transparent. When you have someone who's you see that person is dignified. That means something else. That means that person is golden. Everything they do, they conduct themselves with such honor. Not that it honors them, it honors everyone around them. Everyone around them is better for the experience of having been in the presence of that individual. Hussein is so dignified that despite having died 1400 years ago, he continues to radiate his benevolent personality on us all. And we're still talking about it. That's how dignified this man was. He conducted himself as other people in his family did. This podcast is called the Progeny Podcast, where you talk about and reflect on different people from that household. They conducted themselves with such immense respect. He who shows mercy to someone else, he who is generous to someone else. These are the things that Hussein says. He's always talking about this. How can we be better? There are so many examples. Dignity, which is why when we go out on the streets, or I say we, our teams go out on the streets and help the homeless, or help a young mother, or go to an old man who's lost his job, who can't support his family. It's about restoring their dignity. If a homeless person's hungry, he's not just hungry. The guy hasn't had a haircut. He hasn't brushed his teeth. You know, he's been kicked. You know how many homeless people suffer from mental health? How many of them are abused? People are violent to them. Oh, you can put money in his stomach. You're not gonna give him that satisfaction of being a human again. It's an animalistic feeling. Make him feel like a human at least. And that's the ambition, the aspiration, and the and what we're always working towards at Who Is Hussein, inshallah.
I hope so, inshallah. It's been 10 years, as you said, 2012. Now 10 years since Who Is Hussein started, and alhamdulillah achieved so much. Where do you see Who Is Hussein in the next 10 years? Or where would you like to see Who Is Hussein in the next 10 years?
We need to get better at what we're doing. Start with me. It's not enough. In those examples I gave you, that how we can serve that homeless person, you can do that surface level change. You can make real impactful change. We need to always be impactful with what we're doing, whatever the cause or the issue is. That's the first thing. Continue to be innovative. Continue to be avant-garde. How can we be better at it? Number one. Number two, there's a very basic thing about having more teams which are bigger and better around the world. Not for the sake of having a number of teams, but so that we can serve more people. So that's a quantitative and qualitative thing, if you talk in that sense. That's number two. And number three is awareness about Hussein. We want more people to know who is Hussein around the world, and not just for the sake of it, but adopt him as an inspiration because we think it will benefit them and the lives of people around them. So how can we share more about him? What multimedia can we use and adopt? So we've already released a mini documentary about Hussein. We have the website whoishussein.org. We regularly release various other resources. We'll continue doing that. And it's not an act of self-aggrandizement. We're not doing it so that we point the finger at Who Is Hussein and say, come to us. How can we adorn his personality? How can more people learn about Hussein? And the numbers are great in terms of we monitor the number of people on the website, the number of people on social media, and they continue to grow, which is fantastic. That's what we want to keep doing. In 10 years' time, I hope we're in a place where I can say to you, maybe I'll come back to you and I say to you, Mustafa, I genuinely can say to you that in the last 10 years, we've helped more people. Societies are better off fundamentally for having Who Is Hussein than they are not, than they would be if Who Is Hussein wasn't there. And as I said to you, in some examples, Who Is Hussein in X locations are pillars of those societies, and those societies flock to and really gravitate towards Who Is Hussein because they see there's something, hopefully a little spark of something a little bit different, a little bit je ne sais quoi about them that is worthy of going towards. I want to see supporters, I want to see volunteers of all stripes, all colours, black, white, young, old, rich, poor, left wing, right wing, maybe not too many on the extremes, but whoever wants to come. That's what I want to see, an organisation that represents the people who we are serving, inshallah. And I can say to you today with absolute conviction that I believe that people are continuing to do their level best to be in this organisation with purity of intention. In 10 years' time, I hope I can continue saying that. And I know that's what we're striving towards every day. That's what I hope.
Amazing. Well, I hope Who Is Hussein grows. I hope people will actually sign up literally as soon as you hear this.
blood.whoishussein.org.
That's the website. And give blood in the name of Imam al-Hussein on the 27th of August,
Saturday.
which is a Saturday, so it's a weekend. And let's break a record in the name of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Thank you, Ali, for your time.
Thank you.
I will continue to pray for your success in serving the message of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And thank you to all the teams of Who Is Hussein around the world. You inspire many people with your work. and I hope you can achieve your aims and objectives in the next few years, and inshallah in 10 years everyone will know who Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam is and be inspired by him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mustafa.